In 1947, the guns fell silent in Kashmir, but the war did not end. It merely paused. The First Indo-Pakistani War froze the battlefield, divided a land, and left behind something far more dangerous than open fighting: unfinished business. A ceasefire line cut through mountains and villages, but it did not cut through ambition. Both India and Pakistan walked away claiming justification. Both accused the other of betrayal. Pakistan did not withdraw its forces as demanded by the United Nations. India did not hold the promised plebiscite. The dispute hardened, distrust deepened, and by the mid-1960s, the subcontinent was once again marching toward war. After partition, the two newborn states faced the immense challenge of survival. Pakistan chose alignment with the Western Bloc. Through defense agreements with the United States and membership in alliances like SEATO and CENTO, it received advanced military hardware, patent tanks, modern fighter jets, armored vehicles, and critical training. Its army became one of the most well-equipped forces in the region. India chose non-alignment. It avoided military blocs, but that choice came at a cost. When China defeated India in 1962, it exposed severe weaknesses in Indian defense planning. The shock was profound. New Delhi turned to the Soviet Union for support, acquiring MiG-21s, T-55 tanks, and air defense systems. Gradually, India rebuilt. But in the early 1960s, Pakistan believed it held the edge, technologically, tactically, and psychologically. Inside Kashmir, tensions simmered. Political unrest, protests, and the theft of a sacred relic in 1963 shook the region. When India's Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru died in 1964, Pakistan's leadership interpreted the moment as opportunity. They believed India was politically fragile. They believed Kashmiri Muslims were ready to rise. They believed speed and surprise could change the status quo before India completed its military recovery. It was, in their view, a now or never moment. In April 1965, clashes erupted in the Rann of Kutch. Pakistan performed well. Confidence surged. That confidence would shape what came next. On August 5, 1965, thousands of Pakistani-trained infiltrators crossed the ceasefire line into Indian-controlled Kashmir. This was Operation Gibraltar. The objective was bold: ignite an uprising, sabotage infrastructure, and collapse Indian control from within. But the assumption proved fatal. No mass rebellion materialized. Local support did not meet expectations. Indian forces captured infiltrators. Instead of destabilizing Kashmir, the operation exposed Pakistan's hand. India responded decisively. On August 15, 1965, Indian troops crossed the ceasefire line and began seizing strategic mountain positions. One of the most critical objectives was the Haji Pir Pass, a vital link between Uri and Poonch. In brutal terrain under artillery fire, Indian forces outmaneuvered Pakistani defenders and captured the pass. It was a significant early victory, tightening India's logistical control and threatening Pakistani supply routes. Now, Pakistan faced a dilemma. Retreat meant humiliation. Escalation meant widening the war. They chose escalation. On September 1st, Operation Grand Slam was launched. The target was Aknor, a strategic choke point that, if captured, could sever Indian communications in Jammu. Pakistani armor advanced rapidly, pushing back Indian defenses. Their patent tanks outmatched India's lighter armor. Momentum seemed restored. Then came a controversial decision. Pakistan's leadership replaced the field commander mid-operation. Confusion followed. Tempo slowed. India reinforced. Air power intervened. The opportunity narrowed. Sensing pressure, India expanded the battlefield dramatically. On September 6th, Indian forces crossed the international border toward Lahore. This was no longer limited conflict in Kashmir. It was full-scale war. The aim was strategic: force Pakistan to divert resources, relieve pressure in Kashmir, and threaten a major city to compel negotiation. Indian divisions advanced along multiple axes. They reached the outskirts of Lahore but faced fierce resistance, logistical strain, and heavy counterattacks. Meanwhile, in the fields of Punjab, one of the largest tank battles since World War II unfolded. At Asal Uttar, Pakistani armored forces pushed deep into Indian territory. But Indian defenders prepared the ground carefully, flooding fields, laying mines, digging anti-tank trenches. When Pakistani patent tanks advanced, many became trapped in marshy terrain. Indian artillery and Centurion tanks struck from concealed positions. Dozens of tanks were destroyed. The battlefield became a graveyard of steel. Pakistani armored spearfids suffered heavy losses. The war escalated again near Sialkot. Massive tank formations clashed at Pillora and later at Chawinda. Both sides committed their best armored divisions. Artillery thundered. Air forces struck supply lines. Gains were made, then reversed. Breakthroughs were attempted, then stopped. Casualties mounted. By mid-September, exhaustion began to define the battlefield. Neither side could achieve decisive superiority. Supply lines stretched, equipment losses accumulated, international pressure intensified. On September 20th, the United Nations demanded a ceasefire. 3 days later, the guns fell silent. In January 1966, leaders from both countries met in Tashkent and agreed to withdraw to pre-war positions. Territory captured was returned. The map looked almost unchanged. But the psychological and strategic consequences were profound. India had prevented Pakistan from altering the status quo in Kashmir. Pakistan had demonstrated its willingness to escalate, but failed to achieve its central objective. Its technological edge did not translate to decisive victory. India, though strained, carried much of the strategic initiative during the conflict. The war ended inconclusively on paper, but in reality, it hardened positions further. Kashmir remained unresolved. Trust diminished further. Both militaries began preparing not for peace, but for the next confrontation. The War of 1965 did not settle the dispute. It proved something else. In South Asia, miscalculation can be as powerful as firepower. And the next chapter would be even more decisive.